ضمتين, you stop, you say أحد بالسكون. But if you're going to read it continuously, what do you say? قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد. You add the kasra on the noon because you cannot say أحد الله, just impossible to pronounce. So here, ألم نجعل الأرض, as kasra was being put, so it will be able to pronounce. And it originates from the root جعل, which means صير الشيء, to make something reach something. What is the difference between جعل and خلق? Why didn't Allah say ألم نخلق الأرض مهادا? Why did he say ألم نجعل? جعل means you sent into phases. I mean, you could use the term جعل نجعل and it means creation, خلق. And you can use the word خلق by its own and it means جعل as phases. But to be more specific, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to contemplate on the phases of earth, how it went into matters to be relevant for our ability to reside on it, and it became mihada, it became a cradle. If it was just alam nakhluq al-arda mihada, we created it, Allah is talking about His power only. But when Allah is saying alam naj'alil, means pay attention to the earth. So this is a call for science also. People to go that out of your scanning of this earth with all that which will lead later, mountains, pegs, al-layl, al-nahar, al-samawat, you know, as if this place that has been set for you to reside on, look how Allah perfected it to be able for you to sit and reside and live on. All this from the term naj'al. يعني شوف كيف ربنا سبحانه وتعالى brought this attentiveness in you to understand these phases. And we know that Allah خلق السماوات في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش. So it is not that Allah needed time, but for earth to reach where it is at now as a final product, it needed day one, day two, phase one, phase two, like that. So it's not days as matter as Allah needs time to create anything. He can create anything in a blink of an eye. But for the earth to be ready to welcome us as residents on it, as a cradle, it needed time itself. It needed phases to go in that matter. So this is where we say, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ بِمَعْنَا, it originates from the root جَعَلَ, which means bringing attentiveness to the phases, although it does mean خَلَقَ بِمَعْنَا, created. Next.
The word al-arda, it means earth. It's the subject مفعول به for the verb نجعل. It originates from the root arada, which means everything low and opposite of heaven. كل شيء يسفل ويقابل السماء.
Exactly. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ. Al-ard is the earth. And the ard can be related to the term the ground. يعني الأرض تحتك. But here we are talking about what? We are talking about the creation of earth as all. And في العربي, if you have a jumla, if you have a sentence, then you have a verb, you have a subject, فاعل, you have a مفعول به sometimes, اللي هو الobject. ألم نجعل, where is the subject in the verb نجعل? Here it is referred for محذوف, referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is used in the plural with the noon في فعل المضارع. Although Allah is one, we're going to talk about that later on in details. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes refer to his entity as plural, although He is one subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll talk about this in details later on. في العربي, according to مقاييس اللغة by the great Ibn Faris رحمه الله, قال لك الأرض كل شيء يسفل ويقابل السماء. السماء, anything that goes high. كل شيء يعلو. So you can say the ceiling is sama. السقف, you can say it's sama. وكل شيء يسفل, anything that goes down or under ard, it's called what? Al-ard. So al-ard is meant to be something that is low, which you stand on. I mean, just think of this. This earth as a mass, how many pounds it is? Billions, if not trillions of pounds. It is rotating around itself constantly with a speed of I don't know how many miles per hour. Then it is rotating around the sun and the 354 days of Hijri calendar, or 365 in the what? Gregorian. Then these two are moving in space, in the galaxies. They have been moving since God created heavens and earth. They are moving now, but look, do you see anyone being thrown off earth? Do you see instability in any way? Maybe off and on we might have some earthquakes, whatever. Look at this creation. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. Everything is moving somewhere. So ألم نجعل الأرض, look at earth, how Allah made it reach a term that, the next one please.
The word mihada. It means a cradle, bed, resting place, or a wide expanse. It's another object, مفعول به ثاني, for the same verb, naj'al. It originates from the root mahada, which means a preliminary preparation of a matter. توطئة وتمهيد لشيء.
Exactly. ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا. So this is another object for the verb naj'al. And do you remember when Isa alayhi salam was born and said upon his birth, Inni Abdullah? When the people at the time of Maryam alayhi salam قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا. How can we talk to someone who is an infant in the cradle? So the cradle, al-mahd, is the small bed for the resting for the baby when it's born. We call it al-mahd. And there's a famous saying, it is not an authentic hadith, but it is referred to the Prophet ﷺ. اطلب العلم من المهد إلى اللحد. Seek knowledge from cradle to your kafan. اللحد to your kafan. So as if the way Allah made this earth go in phases, it reached a level to host you, O human being, to be more like a relaxing place of residence for you, like a bed. مثل كأنها فراش مهد ترتاح فيه. ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا. For a very simple reason, what is that you are tasked for? So for Allah to tell you, you are the master of that which has been created, أنت سيد المخلوقات, as a human being, and you are given an honorable status, not like everything else. You're not like angels, you're not like animals, you're something different. We have made the earth a mihad for you. Next.
Tafseer notes, because of the great news, Islam's message delivered to them, pagans, as it revokes the idea of worshipping idols and assures resurrection after death. It's this list of narrating provisions expand on the idea of the oneness of God and His ability to bring people back to life.
So this is from the book of At-Tahrir wa Tanwir by Ibn Ashur, rahimahullah wa ahsanallahu ilayh. So when Allah listed عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض. Look how the sequence shifted. Ibn Ashur is saying, because of such news that were rotating around the pagans delivered to them, and as it revokes the idea of worshipping idols, it stands with the concept of Tawheed against the idea of idols, and assures resurrection after death, it expands on the idea of the oneness of God and His ability to bring people back to life. The same way we made this earth mihada, we brought this mountain up, we can bring you back into life after death. If you look at this universe and these great things that are happening in it, for sure someone had to be behind it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah is the one who is making this mountain as a peg, who is making the night and day, revolve around time, then how could you not see that Allah can bring you back after you were dead? And He brought you in the beginning that you were nothing. It is easier to remake than to start from the beginning. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. You were nothing. So if Allah created you after you were nothing, why you would be disputing the idea, can Allah bring me back? Next note.
Qatada said, Mihada means carpet or mat. It is meant for you so you can relax on it like a mat.
This is from Tabari. Qatada is one of the tabi'een, and he is quoted a lot. We will be hearing him a lot. Imam al-Tabari, if you read Tafseer al-Tabari, Jami' al-Bayan, you will hear a lot quotes by Qatada, by Mujahid, by Al-Hasan al-Basri, by al-Dhahhak. All these people were the students of Sahaba. They were the students of whom? Of the Sahaba. We call them al-Tabi'een. And Imam al-Tabari was able to collect from them, or from their students, let me say, what they said in tafsir about these matters. Now these tabi'een, Qatada or anyone else, they heard it from the Sahaba heard it from the Prophet, maybe sallallahu, that would be a hadith, but it is also their own interpretation, their own tafsir in that. So what did Qatada say? He said, Mihada means a carpet, مثل يعني bisata, like a mat, something if it was a bed or if it was a mat. People in Arabia at that time, they didn't have beds. ما كان عندهم بمعنى تخت مثل موجود الآن سرير. Everyone would just lay some, probably some like sheep, skin or julud, and they will sleep on it or something like that. When people got into cities or in other nations, then beds became expensive. Now you can buy you a mattress alone for $10,000. It brings you up, it brings you down, it raises your feet up, it brings all kind of technology. So the same reference to Qatada, Mihada means as a carpet. Next.
The shift from talking about that which is disputed by pagans to a list of provisions set by God in this universe is not disconnected. Such list mentioned one after another, starting with an interrogative particle for assurance, was meant to answer the question, if you denied the hereafter, look at such creation of God and see how He subhanahu wa ta'ala can make up all that. Aren't all created matters enough of a sign to prevail God's ultimate power?
This is the last statement, is the quote by the great Imam al-Zamakhshari by his tafsir book Al-Kashaf. Al-Zamakhshari is a leader of the school of thought al-Mu'tazila, which we disagree with on the Aqidah term. But anyone who wants to learn tafsir and Arabi, he has to read the book of Zamakhshari. Much respect to his contribution in the Arabic language. هو مرجع, he's a reference in that. No. الزمخشري is he كتب تفسير القرآن, but he's not the tabi'in, no. Much of the philosophical dispute happened later, way later on, not at the time of the tabi'in. So he is saying, الزمخشري, aren't all created matters enough of a sign to prevail God's ultimate power? So you can see that Allah, when He is listing all these things, the outcome of it is what? For people to say, okay, and this is for me and you as a believer. We see the power of Allah prevailing in the creation of things, So we submit and we believe with no type of doubt whatsoever, a total level of certainty that we're going to be brought back again. And we're going to see more examples. Today we're just going to take 2 ayat, inshallah ta'ala. So read that second ayah, akhi man.
7. وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. The word وَالْجِبَال, it means and the mountains. The letter wa is a conjunction letter, حرف عطف. The word al-jibal is a conjunction noun, اسم معطوف to the word al-arda. It originates from the root jabala, which means the gathering of a matter in rising. تجمع الشيء في ارتفاع.
Naam. Well, the first letter is what? Called harf atf, conjunction letter. And a conjunction letter means there's something being mentioned before, you connect it to the word or the sentence. It could be a sentence, it could be a word. So here, alam, so the same istifham, the same inquiry in alam, naj'al al-ard, in other words, alam naj'al al-jibal. So it's the same. You don't have to mention the two words. You need to mention what? The letter waw as harf atf, and you can bring on the same question that has been paused in the beginning of the sentence before. So alam naj'al al-arda mihada, the same way, alam naj'al al-jibala awtada. But you don't need to mention that. You only need to mention what? The letter waw as a harf atf and a conjunction letter, and it can give you the same meaning. Now al-jibal is ism ma'tuf, is a noun affected by, this is the what is being relevant brought to. So the waw is the harf of al-atf. Al-jibal is the noun, is the ism of al-ma'tuf to the same. So ard, jibal, like this, the sequence. And the term al-jibal, which is the plural of what? Jabal. One is ish, jabal, mountain. It originates from the root. Now, I chose to always focus on the root because from roots you can build multiple meanings. And when Shadi was doing the Arabic session, I don't know if any one of you guys attended that. The thing that he brought from Brother Nu'man Ali Khan is that they chose 2,000 words in the Quran or something like that in their original root, and then they go in التصريف. Akala ya'kulu, aklan ta'kuluna, ya'kuluna, like, so you go to singular, plural, masculine, feminine. So when you go to the root, you can build a lot of, other words connected to the root of this. So jabala or jabal, we go by letters. They are not written as a word. It's separate letters. So it's the letter jim and ba and lam. It means the gathering of a matter while in rising. تجمع الشيء في ارتفاع. So if you bring anything in, you can call it what? Jabal. If it was a metaphor, if it was a direct mountain. يعني وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال. So Allah called waves what? Jibal, although waves are not made of rocks or dirt. But the metaphor, as if the gathering of water and these 10, 20, 30, 50 feet, God knows how big was that. So the relevance was تجمع الشيء. The water gathered and rose up. It became as if it's what? As if it's a mountain. والجبال, next.
The word أوتادا, it means pegs or stakes. It's a conjunction noun, اسم معطوف, to the word mihada. It originates from the root watada, which means that which is pounded in a wall or in ground made of wood. ما زر في الحائط أو الأرض من الخشب.
نعم. الوتد are the pegs or the stakes. If you go to any camping, site and you want to set up a tent, the role of a peg or a stake, watad, is to stabilize the building of what? Of a khayma, of a tent. So you can either, put it in ground, or sometimes you can nail it to a tree or a wall, whatever it is. And here it is describing the role of mountains in relation to what? To earth. I'm not sure, but this is mentioned that, and it needs to be proven. Usually when you have a peg, let us say it's 1 feet long, you know. Usually to make sure it is strong in earth, it's not like anyone who hits it, goes off. How much of the watad, how much length of this peg you would want to put underground? At least 2/3 of the total. You keep 1/3 up and you keep 2/3 down. That's exactly how mountains are on earth. Every mountain, what you see on top of earth is only 1/3, and the 2/3 are underground. I heard that. I'm not sure. Maybe you. Yani, we can verify that, but that's what I heard. So والجبال أوتادا. The same way we describe الأرض مهادا معطوفة على المهاد. So the term أوتادا is the same relevance in conjunction to the word مهاد. ما زر في الحائط أو الأرض من الخشب. Usually at that time it's made of wood, but it could be made of any other matter. طيب, تفسير notes.
Qatada said Autada mountains are to earth as pegs to stabilize earth from uncontrolled spinning. Tamida bikum. The way regular pegs stabilize tents.
So this is Qatada, although he wasn't a scientist in a way of scientist, we understand now. But they understood that the role of pegs, autad, is to control the rotation of earth, not to be tamida bikum, moves left and right uncontrollably. بمعنى causing you scare and fright, and because a simple earthquake under your feet can freak you out. Imagine if this earth was not stable. Imagine if every time you have to walk, there's something unstable on you. So this is something to bring stability to the heart and the way that this earth is being made, and the role of jibal in that. Next.
People might confuse describing earth as a cradle, smoothness, with the rise of mountains. And for that, mountains were mentioned by their role as pegs as an explanation.
Someone will come and say, and this is by whom? 36, this is also by Ibn Ashur. If you are talking about mihada, like a mat, bisata. If you are talking about mihada as a cradle, like something smooth, why there's mountains? Then it's not smooth anymore. Then it's not flat. It's not flat, bima'na flat. So here it's saying the mentioning of the autada right after al-ard mihada to explain that mihada does not mean it has to be flat, like 180 degrees. Mihada, it can have mountains as popping up, and it still serves the purpose of you living in stability, but it brought the reasoning behind the jibal to stabilize this earth, to make it mihada the way it was mentioned before. So there's no confusion between the term mihada as smooth or as a cradle, and okay, why do we have mountains if it's supposed to be smooth or like a cradle? The mountains were mentioned by their role to explain the idea of mihada for what? For al-ard. We will stop here inshallah for this part of the tafsir.